Hey everybody, welcome back to school. I'm outside again and we are going to read chapter 39 of Genesis. And so now we know that Joseph's been kidnapped. He's been sold to the Egyptians and now he works for an Egyptian man named Potiphar. And Joseph worked for the Egyptian man who had bought him from the traders. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. The Lord was with Joseph. He gave him great success, and Joseph lived in Potiphar's house, and he made Potiphar successful, and Potiphar was pleased with him. He put him in charge of everything that he owned. And from that time on, the Lord blessed Potiphar's family and his servants because of all that Joseph did. Joseph took good care of everything that Potiphar owned. When Joseph was in charge, Potiphar didn't have to worry about anything except the food he ate. Joseph was also strong and handsome, and one time Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph and she said, "Come, be with me." But he refused. He said, "No, my Potiphar does not have to worry about anything. He trusts me. No one in this house is higher than I am. You are his wife. How could I do such an evil thing? How could I sin against God?" And she asked him day after day, and he always said no. One day Joseph came to do some work in Potiphar's house. Nobody was inside, and Potiphar grabbed him by his coat. "Come with me." But he ran away, and his coat was left in her hand. When she saw that, she ran out of the house and said to the servants, "Look what this Hebrew slave has done to me. He came in and he forced me, and I screamed for help, but nobody heard me. And then he ran and left his coat." And she kept that coat, Joseph's coat, until Potiphar came home and told him the story, the whole story all over again. Potiphar's wife said, "So that's how your slave treats me." So Potiphar put Joseph in prison, and that's where Joseph stayed for a long time, but the Lord was with him. The man running the prison was pleased with Joseph. He put Joseph in charge of everything, all the prisoners. And the man who ran the prison didn't even pay any attention to what Joseph did. He just knew everything would be fine because the Lord was with Joseph. And we will start with chapter 40 later. And now we're on to A Nest for Celeste, chapter 23. And do you remember how Celeste was making a basket that Lafayette would be able to carry and take her back home? With a few flaps of the osprey's powerful wings, the basket lifted slightly. It dragged for a moment along the sandy shoal, but then in the flash, the ground dropped away and Lafayette soared upward. Celeste squealed as a sycamore loomed in front of them and then below them, and then they went up in the air. Celeste turned in her basket. The osprey's huge tail feathers fanned out with a beautiful pattern. He flapped over the creek, and Celeste could see the world getting bigger as they soared up. She saw other creeks and woods and fields and lots of houses and barns. "Hang on tight," the osprey shouted down to Celeste. "Yes." She clutched the rim of the basket, adrenaline racing through her tiny body. It seemed it took all of her strength just to cling to the basket. But soon the creek bank was far behind. She looked down, trying to find something familiar, but didn't recognize anything. The distant fields and woods were deep green in the early morning light. The air was cool and misty. "Should I go down now?" called the osprey. "No, this is wonderful." "Well, hold on, I want to take you for a treat." And Lafayette banked his wings to the left and angled sharply. "Eee! Do that again." The graceful bird dipped and swooped dangerously close to the treetops. "See that? The river?" And he turned again, nearing an expanse of water nearly a mile wide. The sun had just peaked above the tree line to the east, turning the water into a golden mirror. Hundreds and hundreds of ducks were careening along the shoreline in loose flocks. The osprey dipped slightly as they neared an enormous sycamore tree along the riverbank, and the basket glided between its branches, and they saw scores of yellow, green, and orange parakeets. "Hello down there," Celeste called to them. "Hello," they chattered and screeched back. And there are all the parakeets. How about that? And there's Lafayette taking Celeste. Lafayette continued up the river, alternately soaring just above the treetops and flapping just above the water. Celeste breathed deeply, enjoying the sweet, musky smell of the river and the air that rushed across her whiskers. They headed toward an open part of the woods. Celeste could see it seemed to be flooded with river water. Then the trees were different here, not like those thick stands of poplar or the spreading branches of the live oaks that grew in the plantation. These trees seemed to pop right out of the water. Their branches were festooned with long tresses of hanging moss. She looked down along the banks of the dark water. She could see long, rough-skinned creatures basking in the sunlight. One of them opened its huge mouth as they flew over and bellowed. Celeste could see the rows of teeth. "Gators!" Lafayette hollered out, grinning. "Hold on tight. Don't want to drop you now." They flew along, long-necked birds that line-dotted the trees by the thousands. As Lafayette and Celeste cleared the tree canopy, they surprised those birds, and the birds' necks and wings stretched out, and they squawked and croaked in a deafening cacophony. Celeste looked down as the entire flock took flight, flapping and swirling brilliantly white in the morning. Lafayette flew in long, wide circles over the area, with Celeste scanning for anything familiar. Suddenly she shouted, There, that's it. That's the big house." There it is. It was hard to recognize because she had never seen it from this point of view, but the little bedroom window with the magnolia tree nearby was unmistakable. Lafayette circled down. "I'm glad I've gotten you back before the sun was up too high, or else someone would start shooting at me," the osprey called. "More and more guns shooting into the air these days. It's gotten so a bird isn't safe in his own backyard anymore." The wings stopped beating for a moment, and the bird glided and banked and turned closer to the house. The morning was brightening, and Celeste could see that the early activity at the plantation had begun. Horses were pulling wagons toward the rice and sugarcane fields, and smoke was rising from a few chimneys dotted across the landscape. Celeste had another idea. "Lafayette, drop me at this dogwood tree for a minute, please." "What?" "Just let me grab something before you leave me at the window." Celeste quickly but carefully climbed out of the gondola and grabbed onto a branch of the dogwood tree. Lafayette hovered overhead. Finding a cluster of berries, she hurriedly chewed through the stem. She grabbed the stem firmly before leaping into the basket. "Up to the window, the one on the left," Celeste called out, and they flew to Joseph's windowsill. The osprey hovered just above the windowsill as Celeste carefully leaped out again. "I'll see you soon, Sweet Pea," Lafayette called down. "Oh, thank you," Celeste squeaked as Lafayette dropped the basket on the sill, "for getting me home and for the most wonderful time I have ever had." There's the dogwood. So we're getting close, and tomorrow will be Chapter 24, A Homecoming and Inspiration. And there's Celeste there. Okay, one more thing, boys and girls. I am going to let you do a nature study project right here outside. And I did it for our other students. I did a nature study art project outside that doesn't last very long. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you. Let me fix one up right here. And maybe you already saw this with the other students' lessons, but if not, let me turn this right here and let you see that face. Do you see that face right there? Here's some hair those are pine needles, some eyes. Those are just little rocks, some sticks for the eyebrows, another little stick for the nose, a piece of a fern for the mouth, and the most important part right here, this curved line. This curved line, and I could even switch it to be this way, is what shapes the face. And I put a little extra thing under the curved line. Now that little face looks kind of sad. Let me try to make her look a little happier here. Remember how we did those eyebrows one time? That's a little better. If I turn them this way, she looks kind of mad, doesn't she? Maybe I'll move her eyes down a little bit. So what I want you to do is go in your yard and find some things. there's a face. You're gonna find lots of things. Some tree branches, some sticks, some little pieces of flowers, some rocks, some stones, some pieces of bark, and find some sticks that might have a little curve in them. See, that one is kind of curved right there. And then I want you to get all those things together and then bring them outside, put them on the sidewalk, put them on a piece of paper. They won't last. They're gonna be blowing away. They're gonna be moving around. I'm gonna make a little face right here. Here's some hair. Now, let me see what I have here. Oh, wow, there's one eye there. And I'm just going to look around right here, and there's another eye. So now I have that. I'm going to put that for a mouth. I still need a nose. Here's a little piece of a fern that I cut earlier. Now, the best part that really helps. There's a face. So boys and girls, look around your yard, take some time. You might need to get some scissors to cut some pieces. You might just use your own scissors to cut some leaves from something like this, or even little sticks and little things that are growing out of your yard, and just cut them up and lay them out. You don't have to use this kind of hair. You can use all kinds of hair. You could use that kind of hair. You could just gather some sticks together and cut them up and make some hair. But you put some things on the ground, make some hair, 2 eyes. If you want to use things, make eyebrows, a nose, a mouth, and try to find a curved stick, or just get a straight stick and kind of bend it to make it a little. We'll put this one here. This will be a little different, just kind of bent. And let me fix my eyes there. But see, even that kind of helps to make kind of a face. All right, so do something like that. Make yourself something, take a picture of it, and send it to me. All righty, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.